What's up, everybody? Sir Cedric here with SampleFiends, and I've got a little video about using the Pulveriser as a CV shaper. Basically, what we're doing is routing the CV through the follower section of the Pulveriser, and we're going to use the attack and release knobs, as well as the scaling knob on the follower output to shape the strength and length of the CV. Currently, I'm using an effects combinator out of the Synth Nation Reason 6 update. It uses an Alligator with a Redrum to program the sequence for the bands, a subtractor to generate an LFO, and a Pulveriser to process the CV. The signal is coming from a combinator, also from the Synth Nation library, called Dark and Mellow, found in the Pads, Keys, and Textures section. If we bypass these effects, completely dry, this patch sounds like this. Now I'm going to re-enable the effects, and I need to reset a setting here on my follower output so that the Pulveriser is outputting the CV that we're sending to it. Now let's hear the pattern that I've created with this effect. So how did we get from that dry sound to this pattern sound, and what does the Pulveriser have to do with it? Well, let's check that out. First, let's open up a few of these devices. As you can tell, the Redrum, each gate out, is sequencing one gate in of the Alligator. I have my pattern programmed in on the channels, and its gate is forcing the Alligator gates open. Second, I have a subtractor, and I'm only using the LFO out on the subtractor, which is going to the follower input CV, which breaks the internal routing of the Pulveriser. Then, the modulation output of the follower is going all the way back up and into the programmer of the combinator. I'm using the scaling knob of CV1 on the programmer CV in the combinator to scale the effect that that CV will have upon its affected parameter. Now, if I look in the Alligator, you can see that CV1 in is connected to the dry volume of the Alligator. Notice down here that the volume switch is moving all on its own. If you can see the pattern visually, you'll notice that it takes a very slow rise up rhythmically, and then fairly quickly, or at least quicker than it goes up, it comes back down. This is achieved through the use of the release knob in the Pulveriser follower section. Since the LFO is set to a ramp wave going upwards, that CV is going into the follower. This scaling knob is cutting the amount of effect the CV will have in half right off the bat. Then, as it goes through the follower section, it's forced to release at the settings of this release knob, which I've tailored to this specific pattern. Then it goes from the modulation output and controls that volume knob, making the pattern that we see. If we were to visualize this pattern, it would look like a triangle where the second side was shorter than the first side, so the slope up is much slower than the slope down. This is due to the way that we've adjusted the release knob. If I go down and turn this release knob all the way down, let's look for our visual reference here on the volume knob and see how it behaves. As you can see, it goes ramp up and then immediately switches from the top of the ramp back down. Further adjustment of this release knob will cause different release slopes for the CV. Shorter settings of the release knob will result in a slower release curve. You can also get another visual reference using this indicator light in the follower section. Watch what happens when I push it past the 3/4 mark. The light fades out slowly as opposed to instantly. Effectively, it adds a little bit onto the CV message based on the release curve that you've set. It will work the exact same way for the attack setting. So what we've done here is tweak the release curve to the point where my synth sound slowly fades in and then gives me a little bit of release on the end so that it fades out smoothly in time with the song. Now listening back to the pattern, you should be able to hear the mechanics. So we've seen that we can use the attack and release knobs to shape the way the CV reacts as it's being run through the pulverizer. Another thing we can do is use the follower scaling knob to increase or decrease the effect of the CV as it comes into the pulverizer, or alternatively, open the programmer here and use the CV1 input scaling knob above to scale the CV after the pulverizer's shaping effect has taken place. There's one more neat little trick that I wanted to show off. Currently, the Alligator's ADR amp envelope is global, meaning the same settings will apply to the high pass, band pass, and low pass. And since we're using a Redrum, which is sending very short gate triggers, we have to use a full decay setting and adjust the release to get the proper gate size that we want. But if we want our bands to have different gate sizes, we're going to have to actually adjust the size of the gate message that's being sent. So first things first, I'm going to turn down the release and hear what that does to our pattern. Okay, now I'm going to inject a pulverizer into the CV gate path between Redrum channel 3 gate out and Alligator gate 3 in. So I'm going to right click and shift create this pulverizer effect. And then we'll interrupt the gate out from channel 3 with the pulverizer. And we're going to keep it around, let's say, about 2/3 the scaling. Now we'll play our pattern and start adjusting our release time. If you put one pulverizer in between every single band, then you can create your own attack and release settings for each band that are not based globally like the ones within the Alligator are. These are just a few potential uses of the pulverizer as a CV shaper. Please feel free to get back to us with any of your ideas or cool tricks that you have using Pulverizer's follower section and CV. Thanks for watching.